Hey guys, welcome to Learn with DevOps Engineer channel. Like, share and subscribe for more videos. What is Git? Git is a distributed version control system. This is the term which you are going to hear a lot about Git. I am going to simplify this in such a way that it will be easier for you to understand what is Git. For example, you are working on a project, let's say a small project or a big project or a medium project. You are going to create some files and folders with some source code for that particular project, and you are going to save it on your computer, or let's say on a remote computer. Wherever you save, you need some place for that. Let's say your friend or your colleague wants to contribute something to the project which you are working. Then he will try to take all the source code which you have, put it on his own computer and add some files, delete some files, or do some changes according to his requirement. Then another third person would like to contribute something, then he will also do the same thing. The process is a bit tough when people are growing. If it is a single person, then it's easier to do. But if people want to contribute more and more, then it will be very hard to maintain the source code properly. So this is where we can use Git, and you'll learn more about how effectively you can utilize Git in these kind of scenarios from small to large projects. You will hear a lot about branching and merging, as you can see in this picture. On the right hand side, there is a master branch, as you can see in green color, and the development branch and a feature branch. So you can create this replica of this particular master branch as a development branch. Just you can switch by giving the branch name to this particular branch, and the whole source code which was present in this master branch will be replicated here as well. Then you can do whatever changes you want, and if you want to merge back those changes, you can merge, or if you want to revert those changes, you can do that as well. I mean, there are plenty of opportunity to play around with your own branch. You can create role-based branches as well according to your project, production branch or development branch or testing branch. Also, there are ways to create feature branches. As you can see in the picture, you can create a feature branch based out of this particular master branch and develop your own feature and merge back those changes to the master branch. Also, let's say if you want to create any kind of branch which is not present here, for example for some experimentation, then you can do that as well. If you like that, you can merge those changes or delete those changes. So there are multiple ways of dealing with branching strategies and all. It's all according to your requirement and needs. You can proceed. Git is very small and fast. As you can see in the picture, a person is running here. It can perform all the operations locally, and you can push the changes whenever you are ready to push it to the central server. It was written in C language to avoid runtimes associated with higher level languages. So what is distributed? For most of the source control systems, you will hear a lot about distributed irrespective of Git. It is nothing but there's no need to check out the current tip of the source code. You can clone the entire repository and do your changes accordingly. So this is the main meaning of this distributed. So one of the major thing you can see in this distributed workflow is multiple backups. As you can see in the picture, there are 3 different computers. Each of the developer or computer will have its own source code. I mean, the complete copy from the main server on his computer, on this computer, and on this computer. These 3 computers will have the whole copy from the main server on their own computers. Let's say in the worst case scenario, if something goes wrong with the main server, one of the developer can push the source code to the main server. So this is kind of the major thing which we need to consider about multiple backups. So there are like different kind of workflows involved in this Git. It completely depends on your requirement of your project. You can follow any of the workflow. One of the workflow is like Subversion style workflow, wherein as you can see shared repository on the right hand side, wherein we do have like developer 1, 2 and 3 who are like trying to pull the source code and push the source code to the particular shared repository. Let's say developer 1 is like pushing some source code and developer 2 is like trying to push the same source code at the same time, then it's like you'll get some rejection. Once the developer 1 pushes the source code to the shared repository, developer 2 needs to pull the changes before pushing anything. So this is kind of a workflow which Git follow. Integration manager workflow. The second type of workflow here is about integration manager workflow. On the right hand side, as you can see, there is like an integration manager in the red picture here, who is like responsible to push changes to the master repository. There are like private developers, two different private developers with public repository. As you can see, they are like pulling and pushing things from here. Also, they are trying to pull things from the master repository. They will have rights to pull things only from master repository. Let's say if they want to push something to the master repository, they cannot do that. All they have to do is like they should have their own public repository, and the integration manager will be like responsible for pulling these things and pushing it to the master repository. So this kind of workflow is mostly used in open source project, or for example GitHub repositories. You can follow this kind of process for open source project. Dictator and lieutenant workflow. This is another kind of workflow, as you can see in the picture, wherein there is like one blessed repository in green color and the dictator in red color. You can see multiple developers sitting here at the bottom with arrow marks pointed to them. They are going to pull all their source code from the blessed repository. They are going to work on that particular change if they want to do something, and they are going to push it to the lieutenant repository. And from here, dictator is like responsible to pull things from the lieutenant, and he is going to push it to the blessed repository. This is kind of the workflow that is being followed for very big projects. I mean, let's say if a project has multiple features or let's say components that needs to be developed, in this kind of scenario, developers will try to push for this lieutenant repository, and from here things are being pushed to the dictator, and from dictator things are being pushed to the blessed repository. You cannot directly push to the blessed repository. So data assurance is like one of the major thing in Git, which handles cryptographic integrity of every bit of your project. I mean, there's no way that you can delete or like do some kind of malpractice with your source code or with your commits. So each and everything is like being tracked, as you can see with the number, cryptographic checksum number. So you cannot do anything with respect to your files and folders. I mean, there are some ways that we can deal, but it's like very hard if you want to change or like do something else with your source code or files. Free and open source. I mean, this is like free and open source tool which can be like used for your work. Most of the top companies are like using Git in their projects. For example, Google, Netflix, Facebook, LinkedIn, Microsoft, all these major companies are like using Git as their source control. If you are like willing to use for your own purpose or for your own project, then I would definitely recommend you to use Git. Thank you for watching this video.